Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. And Tom, how's it going?
We are doing this one old school style. We are doing it recording on the indoor field at the WAC. And, of course, as per tradition, there is a truck in here doing work. They are hanging the 2019 Big Ten Championship banner on the, what would that be, the west wall of the WAC. I'll tweet out a picture just to... sort of a proof of life thing that, yes, this is really happening. We're not making it up. And, yes, did they start using loud power tools literally seconds before we hit record? Yes. Yes, they did.
As you would expect. And so today we got to speak with Ohio State's Director of Strength and blah, blah, Athletic Department Director of, a.k.a. Strength Coach, Mickey Marotti.
I use his official title in my story. He is the... Assistant Athletic Director for Football Sports Performance at Ohio State.
Now imagine if that eventually gets sponsored, like a donor will come in and say, I want this to be the Dorothy and Neil Stewart Director of Performance.
I think you have to have it sponsored by like a pizza company, like the Donato's Strength and Conditioning Coach.
Hungry Howie's Strength and Conditioning Coach. So that's what we did today, talked to him for about a half an hour. And we will discuss what he said here in a bit. But Tom, first, I think we should get to the shocking news. Kerry Coombs, former Ohio State defensive backs coach, former Ohio State cornerbacks coach, has out of nowhere returned to the Ohio State coaching staff. Ryan Day hiring him because I guess he could not find anybody else through his 3 weeks of searching.
I mean, you knew that had to be the case, that the search was just completely empty because you didn't hear any other names. And what other possible explanation could there have been? I mean, we were speculating last week that, I mean, it could be literally anyone. Literally anybody, including someone who maybe had held this exact position mere years earlier. And I shouldn't say this exact position because he is doing more than just coaching.
Correct. Backs. Yes, he will coach defensive backs. He is the defensive coordinator. Greg Madison is now the co-defensive coordinator. And I don't really expect much of Greg Madison's deal to change. And it'll be interesting to talk to Kerry Coombs on signing day and just be like, so how does the play calling stuff work? And when we get into that, then you also have to wonder, Tom, do we know what kind of play caller Kerry Coombs is? He's always been a position coach at Ohio State. Granted, he was the assistant defensive coordinator his final season at Ohio State. But I don't know that he wasn't calling any plays. And so, yes, he is a great position coach. But what kind of tactician is he? We don't know.
Right, and that's kind of the $64,000 question.
That's the $1.2 million question.
Also that. $64,000 times 20 or so. Because Jeff Hafley had not been a coordinator, and he came in last year, and, the fact that he had not been a coordinator before, they paired him with Greg Madison.
Yeah.
Because Greg Madison had done it before, and that worked out just fine. So you would think that there's some reason to think that they probably have a good sense that he'll be able to do the job, but you never know, because sometimes you hire a fantastic position coach like Ed Warner to be your offensive to be your coordinator, and it's a disaster. And sometimes you hire a terrible position coach like Tim Beck to be your coordinator, and it's also a disaster. So there's not necessarily a great correlation between, how you are as a position coach and how you are as a coordinator. Those are different skill sets. And, Ryan Day has gone through that. Ryan Day has been a position coach and then a coordinator, and that worked out great. So sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it doesn't. And kind of the real black box in all of this is like, okay, how much of the decision making is going to be done by Coombs versus Madison? Because every time we ask, we have come up with 1,000 different ways to ask the question. So, who's really making these calls? And it's, we just a couple guys talking ball. Just a couple guys, they just kind of spitballing and throwing stuff back and forth. And
just guys being guys.
Guys being dudes, dudes being
rules.
Guys. That's Jerry Emig. Everyone always calls him the GOAT. And that's because he recognizes that we do rule. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate it.
That'll do it for the show, guys. No, but you just compared Kerry Coombs to Tim Beck, and I'm like,
But I also compared him to Ryan Day.
I didn't hear that part. I only heard the Tim. I stopped listening.
Your brain just melted. Sorry to melt your brain.
Boy, that's quite the contrast. He could be Tim Beck. I don't, or he could be like the Ryan Day of the defense. I think if he's only Jeff Hafley, then this is a tremendous hire.
Well, yeah, if you get a Jeff Hafley level of performance and you mix that with the Greg Madison level of performance that they got last year, and whatever that blend was between those two, whether it was 50-50 or 60-40 or 90-10, we don't know, but if that blend works the same this year that it did last year, then you would think that would work out pretty well, because it worked out pretty well last year. And Coombs has a lot of similarities with Hafley, where defensive backs guys, Madison's kind of a defensive line guy, so you've got kind of a little bit of a blend of the two ends of the defense. Coombs is not as young as Hafley, but he sure is as energetic as Hafley, maybe more. So, you've got some similarities on the surface, and both guys have a little bit of NFL experience, a little bit of college experience. So there's reason to be hopeful, but I honestly, I think we're going to be probably into September or October before we really know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Matt Barnes returns, which is a good thing. And you talk about guys who have experience being a coordinator. He was essentially the defensive coordinator at Maryland for like the last half of that season 2 years ago. So he has that experience as well. And he was up in the box during the season with Hafley. Now we know Kerry Coombs is always on the sideline. Mm-hmm. Greg Madison is always on the sideline. I'm wondering if one of them moves upstairs. Does Al Washington move upstairs? What's this alignment going to be? Because I can't picture Kerry Coombs being up in a box.
That seems like a waste. Like you want your energy guy on the sideline, and
completely.
I would guess, just purely speculation, but my guess would be that they move Madison upstairs because you have Coombs downstairs. Coombs is kind of the energy guy, and
Madison doesn't have a position. So
Madison, right, no and reason. And he sort of focuses on defensive line, but you've got Larry Johnson on the sideline to do that. So, yeah, to me, sort of academically, Madison up in the box makes more sense.
You being an academic,
yes, I mean PhD in something.
I forget. I forget exactly what it was for. I studied many years for it.
Many things. Please call me doctor. I don't remember.
So that's. That, like you said, we won't know until, who knows, like the first time they give up 400 yards passing, then forget about it.
Yeah, then it's broken, and then it's time to fire. By the time we figure out who's doing their job well or poorly, it's time to fire people.
Yeah, never mind that they are breaking in 3 new starters in the secondary, 4 if you want to count the need for a nickel. Mm-hmm. So it's not like if Kerry Coombs can't make this group look like last year's the 2016 group that he's some spectacular failure. It's like, no, these guys are all relatively new, even though they played. And we talked to Mickey Marotti today, and he said it's a big winner for all of those guys. And it is, because they all have immense pressure on them. Cameron Brown, Seven Banks, Amir Reep. This is the biggest winner ever for Tyreek Johnson. Mm-hmm. You've got to do something. Yeah. And so it starts now, and you get Kerry Coombs. He knows all these guys. He recruited all of these guys. And you hope that in the case of Tyreek Johnson, maybe it's just another perspective, a different perspective sparks kind of the offseason that they need from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the guy. He reminds me a little bit of Larry Grant, when Larry Grant was a linebacker who had come in as a 5-star prospect, and it just kind of it seemed like it didn't click for him. It didn't click for him, and everyone's getting ready to call this guy a bust, and then his last year was like, oh, he turned out to be a pretty good player for them and made a really positive impact for them as a senior. This is only Tyreek Johnson's 3rd year. Defensive back is a position where, especially corner, is a position where it takes a while to get there. Like you do not have true freshmen who are out there playing lockdown corner as you can do that as a running back. You can be J.K. Dobbins as a freshman there. Jeff Okudah was just like the best case scenario realistically for a true freshman corner, and that was like, well, by the very end of the year, literally the bowl game at the end of the year, he was just kind of okay. And that was like, whoa, that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, LSU had it with Stingley this year, but that's very rare. Yeah. Now, you say Larry Johnson. I will remind you, he was a junior college.
Larry Grant.
Larry Grant was I'm correcting you. Don't you correct me. Larry Grant was a junior college guy, so his junior year wasn't that great. Senior year, he was a starter, was really good. Were you also thinking maybe Etienne Sabino?
No, I was not thinking Etienne Sabino. I was thinking of the 5-star linebacker who was around in like 2012 to 2015. So we both said the wrong name.
Who are you thinking of?
I'll come up with a linebacker from Virginia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Larry Grant. No,
it was not Larry Grant. Larry Grant was
Curtis Grant.
Curtis Grant. Yeah. So see, wow, this has been a really good conversation.
I'm not editing this out.
No, well, this is the process.
It's winter. This is winter workouts for us too.
Right. I mean, as Mickey Marotti said, this is a time of year when you really find out about people, and it's the key start to the development for the next year. And look, this is winter workouts for us too. Yeah.
And they're definitely finding out about us.
They are definitely nothing good. Nothing good about our short to medium term memories. That's for sure.
Gee whiz. There's so many options there, and we eventually got it right.
Which, is a testament to us, I think.
Thank you. We're already almost in like February shape right now. So we're doing pretty well. Anything else from Kerry Coombs? I can't wait to talk to the players about getting him back. We talked to Mick, and he's like, well, he's here before anybody else, shows up at 5:30 in the morning.
Drinking coffee and lifting weights. Literally exactly what you would expect Kerry Coombs to be doing.
But he's out recruiting, talking to, I think, visiting Cameron Martinez today. Like one of the final signees of the 2020 class for the Buckeyes, because I don't know that they have. Well, they don't have room for Cameron Martinez.
They have. Yeah, they are.
It's not going to be many more beyond Cameron Martinez.
No, they were at 88 a couple weeks ago, not including Martinez, and Alex Williams then put his name in the transfer portal. So then you're at 87, but with Martinez, you're back to 88. And 88 is a very reasonable place to be this time of year, because there are going to be guys who are going to transfer. I mean, you can sort of speculate, but.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen more already.
Yeah, I am a little surprised. But that may be, you will sometimes get a blast of those guys in like January, and then you'll get another one after spring ball, because we talk all the time about the spring awakening, and it's, this time of year, everyone's thinking, okay, this is going to be there. I'm really going to take a step forward. And okay, well, if you're starting to get passed by the younger guys, or you have not taken as much of a step forward, that's that spring awakening where it's just like, oh, this may just not happen for me here. I'm going to go somewhere else where I have a chance to play more.
And then also you have people graduating in May.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it's like, well, now I can just go anywhere and not have to sit out. So there's going to be some of that as well. And so I don't, 88 might as well be 82.
Right. Really. Yeah. 88 is enough that they're not going to take more than 1 to maybe 2, and really I would be fairly surprised at this point if it was more than just Cameron Martinez.
Right.
Because some of the other guys that they have kind of been talking about, Jahmyr Gibbs, they said don't bother coming, we don't have room. So, that if they're saying that to someone as talented as Jahmyr Gibbs, who's looking at other schools that are, you look at the schools he's looking at right now, it's like, okay, well, those are all very good football schools.
And he looked good in the All-American Bowl.
Game. Yeah.
So that's where they are right now. It is good to have Kerry Coombs back out on the recruiting trail, because he gives us updates, via Twitter with his
hashtag planting
70-letter hashtags. We'll see how quickly. I guess it's time to get really ramped up on all of the 2021 defensive backs, because they need to go get some, and that's what he'll be doing for a while. Like I said, we'll talk to him, and we'll talk to quarterbacks coach Corey Dennis on signing day. They're going to be on the road until then. We will also be talking to the 14 early, depending on class, as many early enrollees as possible on signing day, and that's always going to be an informative day. Anything else on Coombs before we move to the events of today with Mickey Marotti?
No, I think that kind of covers the basics of Coombs, and we'll have a lot more with him in 2 weeks.
Yes, a lot more. So with Mick, it was the first time. I don't know if we talked to him last year.
No, we had not talked to him since at least 2017. We didn't do it last year. We didn't do it the year before that. So
yeah, this was a good chance to just, as Jerry Emick, who ran the show, said, I'm not going to call anybody, just say your questions and let's have it's a conversation with Mick. And so that's what it was. He was asked about a ton of things. Let's go over, I guess, the health of the team first. Jonathan Cooper is good to go. He's, as we saw in Michigan. Justin Fields, 100%. No, not being held back at all. He's fine. I asked about Marcus Crowley, and he said he didn't know. Cameron Babb, who has missed the first 2 seasons at Ohio State with torn ACLs, is good to go. He's full. I think that's a guy who a lot of people have completely forgotten about.
Yeah.
If you go look at his highlights in high school, now again, those highlights are also him doing a lot of cutting and like really putting pressure on his knees.
Yeah.
You watch those and you're like, it makes me sore, and you just wonder, like, where is he in terms of the player that he was? But he's good to go. Were there any others?
Those were the big ones that he was asked specifically about. I mean, he was asked about kind of the defensive backs, the young defensive backs, and how they were kind of progressing this year.
Yeah.
He was asked about Chris Olave and how he was doing sort of as a leader in that room.
He mentioned, like, he wasn't even asked about Chris Olave. Yeah. He just said Chris Olave is becoming a leader.
Yeah.
And it's clear that he has taken the end of the season and used it in the right way. But then some guys, it doesn't matter what happened last season. He's just going to become a leader.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of guy he is. And I thought it was interesting when he talked about, they had the guys fill out like a 6-question survey, all of the players, like your goals, your motivations, what do you plan to accomplish this winter over the off season? And then they placed that questionnaire on everybody's locker.
Yeah, they hang them up for
everybody to see. So if one guy is like, falling short of something, then it's out there. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to get a 3.0 in this quarter, and yet, but you're skipping class or whatever. You got a 2.2, and so other teammates can hold them accountable or help them get to those goals. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting. Sounds like it's a new thing. Perhaps.
Yeah, that sounded like that was
a day thing rather than a Meyer thing.
Yeah, and that's good because that's it's very easy to have goals and have things you want to do, but setting the goals is kind of the fun part, and then the not so fun part is then you got to come in and you got to lift weights at 5 a.m. or you've got to get up when your alarm goes off at 7 a.m. and go walk to class when it's 15 degrees outside. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not fun if you have a way to. But this is very much like the old saying about you can't win the national championship in the spring or the winter, but you can lose it. This is a good way for everyone to just sort of everyone's on the same page. No one's being singled out or treated differently.
Yeah,
you're setting it up where everyone's on the same page. Everyone can kind of police each other, hold each other accountable, and you're setting up some of your team leaders to be team leaders at that point.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, the players and coaches, like, there's always meetings between a player and coaches about your goals, and you set your goals, and then it doesn't necessarily go beyond that in terms of everybody else knowing what you're setting out to do. So to put these out there for everybody, I think it's interesting. And remember how, like, Jim Tressel would have his teams, like, be quizzed about their teammates, like, where is so-and-so from? It could be the walk-on kicker from wherever, and he's asking, like, the star quarterback, Joe Bauserman, like, where is the kicker from? And they would have to know all of these things about each other. And I think this is one of those ways to where you can bring the team together even more by just putting that out there and allowing them to hold each other accountable, but allowing them to. You wonder how much of it is holding each other accountable, how much of it is being there to encourage each other to get to that, and knowing. Then there's the selfish thing of, like, or just knowing that everybody else knows it, so I have to keep it up.
Yeah,
like that's the thing where it's like, now I have to look good, and as long as that works, that's another area of motivation. Like, well, they know what I'm trying to do, and so now I can't slack because other people know it, rather than just maybe a coach who has 85 other players to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the people who set New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to lose this much weight this year, and it's very easy if you just kind of set it in your head, to on January 10th go, there's always next year. This is like the next step beyond, the people who publish their, post their weight on Twitter every morning
it's a pinned
or whatever.
Tweet on their locker room, basically, on their lockers.
Yeah, you're putting it out there, and you're kind of holding each other accountable in the way that, there's a lot of talk about brotherhood and family in this building, and in the same way that you can kind of, whether it's your kids or your spouse, you can kind of hold them accountable for things in a way that you can't do with an average person. That's something that they can do here too.
Yeah.
And that can be in form of encouragement or accountability or any combination thereof. But, that makes it a lot harder to kind of welsh on what you're...
It creates habit.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they're doing that. Mick was asked about his impressions of the early enrollees, of which there are 14, actually 15 with the transfer tight end from SMU, who never had a catch at SMU. So, it's not like he's coming in here to
he's coming in as a preferred walk-on. Yeah. So that's not someone who I would expect to steal Jeremy Ruckert's job.
No, although we'll see. Crazier things have happened. I don't think that's actually true though.
Name one.
Joe Germain starting over Mark Garcia and Stanley Jackson. They actually never started again. One time over Stanley Jackson.
One thing he did talk about was they have a sign in the locker room with the score of the Clemson game, and so they said, "So what is it? What does it say?" And he said, "Just has a score." I don't know what else you need to say. That says it all. I think everyone in that room is aware of the context around that score. Yeah. So just has the score.
It might even be worse is if you have the score had the touchdown not been removed, and then have that score removed. It comes down to, it goes from 30 to 29, and it's no, 29-23. And just make it hurt even more.
Like the changing concession stand prices of the shot that I tweeted out last weekend. Yes. Yeah. Just.
But real quick, getting back to the early enrollees, he's keeping them all together all winter long, rather than, because eventually they start out together and then they implement them into the rest of the team. But they've got them split up 3 ways this way, and they're keeping the incoming guys, the early enrollees, together because there's just so many. Then he said, the other freshmen and sophomores, first and second year guys together.
Just kind of the young guys who haven't played much.
Right.
And then
the vets, basically.
The vets, yep.
So they've got 3 groups of workouts going on. And so by also doing this with the incoming guys, they build that camaraderie even more, which we talk to them every year about that, and how they rely on each other to actually get things done. And I think that's also where leadership starts among a class.
Yeah.
And you'll see guys who, I'm the one who drives everybody to the workouts. I'm the one, I have the car, so I drive people. I make sure everybody gets where they need to be. And it'll be interesting to see who emerges among those leaders. But as Mick said, too early right now.
Yeah, all the questions we really wanted answered, the answer was it's too early. But yeah, it's an interesting idea because by keeping the freshmen segregated, every group is going to have a leader.
Yep. And
so you're almost by default forcing someone in that freshman class to start taking over as a leader. And, he was asked specifically about the 2 freshman quarterbacks because, I think the natural assumption would be, it's going to be one of them, or it's going to be Paris Johnson, or it's going to be, one of the 5-star kids. And, maybe that is, and maybe it isn't, but you're starting to build that leader within that kind of small group. And you're also, by keeping that group separate, it's only 14 of them. So you've got offensive guys and defensive guys who are going to be friends, and are going to start hanging out together and maybe working out together. Because that's another thing that they'll try and do is they'll try and keep, roommates for camp. It'll be, an offensive guy and a defensive guy, or a guy who's relatively low on the depth chart with a star, or guys who are from the city versus guys who are from the country, or whatever, just to try and keep so you don't get too cliquey on the team, and people can be friends with different guys, and guys from different places, and guys in different positions, and that everyone really does know everyone, and can you have friendships that cross some of those lines, and that makes it feel much more like a home, like a family.
I thought it was interesting. He was asked about are there any guys who are, I guess, maybe different or more prepared for the winter workouts? He's like, Paris Johnson has been preparing for this since like the 8th grade. He's been working out, and he's just different than some of the other like Ohio offensive linemen. I think he started to say like Ohio offensive linemen that came in. But then he also said like Ohio and Texas have really, like Ohio high school, Texas high schools, both have really good strength programs. So those two states usually send players who are more prepared than others. And it was just interesting that he singled him out as a guy who, like, he has been preparing for this for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to hear when someone gives an example of like one of the freshmen this early. It's kind of like, oh, that means something. Like that's when you start immediately reading into things, because no one they don't ever want to single out anyone for doing something bad.
Yeah.
But if one guy gets singled out for being good, that's like, oh.
And they never want to leave anybody out.
Right.
They're always worried about that as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of telling to me that, Paris Johnson, you watch him play and it's like, oh, okay, like this guy is immensely physically talented. If he also has that work ethic where he's the guy who's just going to outwork everyone and be stronger than everyone, like that's when you're a Billy Price. That's when you're someone like that who's just, he is not going to be an immediate impact player. Almost certainly, that's offensive line, like defensive backfield, is a tough place to get on the field as a true freshman. But you saw last year, Harry Miller's another one of those guys like that, where Harry Miller was a 5-star kid like Paris Johnson was. He also he talked about sending workout videos to Coach Mick last year. He talked about Skyping into team meetings and that kind of stuff to start, so you're really prepared. If you have that, makeup where you are really driven to be the best and to make the most of what you have, and your athletic gifts on, just in general are already at a pretty high level, that's when those are the guys that turn into the really special players and get their pictures on the wall inside the WAC.
Well, you say special players, and that brings up Justin Fields, who, the two freshman quarterbacks, Mickey was talking about how they're both good, but they have room to grow and things to do physically, because you look at CJ Stroud, who's like listed at like 6'2", 6'3", like 185. Jack Miller's like 6'3", 6'4", 200. And he's like, it's not fair for those guys to then look over at Justin Fields, who is like the 6'3", 230-pound like prototype. And, that's not who everybody is. And so don't worry about that. Just, worry about yourself.
Yeah, you were in high school a month ago, so don't necessarily measure yourself against the guy who was a Heisman finalist. Well, you were still going to high school classes. He was in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Like that's not an immediately fair measure to hold yourself to.
It's like when Homer's trying to do the barbecue pit in the backyard, and it doesn't look like what's on the box.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing that was interesting to me was Mickey Marotti just kind of like casually just mentioned like Justin Fields loves to lift weights, loves to work out. Like that is like one of those things that he really does, because we were kind of joking beforehand that there was an LSU strength coach a couple of years ago who, when NFL people came in, like said, okay, here are the lazy guys. Like, he's not going to do that. That's not what he's going to do with us. But it's interesting to hear the guys who are like, oh yeah, this guy's like, just like Paris Johnson, like this guy's a guy who, because you see those guys. That was last year. That was J.K. Dobbins was that guy on the team. Justin Fields, it sounds like he might be that guy on the team. Guys like Harry Miller, guys like Paris Johnson, those are guys who just, it doesn't mean absolutely this guy's going to win the Outland Trophy or the Heisman Trophy or anything like that, but those are the guys who, if you had to bet on someone, those are probably good guys to bet on for that.
Well,
kind of stuff.
Now you say like the players that he mentions. I'm going to give you a quote here. He's one of the most dependable players I've ever been around in 30 years. Tom, can you tell the listeners who Mickey Marotti was talking about there?
Fan favorite, Mike Backer, Tough Portland.
That is correct.
Probably about to be a 3-time team captain. And, and that's someone who, I think that outside of this building is probably viewed a little differently than he is viewed inside of this building by some folks.
Yeah, like Nick said, when it's easy, it's great. When it's hard, you need guys like Tough Borland, and teammates rely on him. He said he's the epitome of what a collegiate athlete should be. And so every time we tell you what the coaches say about this guy or that guy, it's like
R.I.P. my mentions.
Yeah, there you go. That's why all I'm doing is reading the quote. I let you put the player's name out there. That's on you, Tom.
Yeah. He's someone who I think is a little bit like a Donnie Nicky almost, where people made up their mind on him very early, and their minds have not changed as much as they probably should have. But if you are a 3-time team captain, there are people in this building who respect you, and
Is that right?
they are the people who are spending the most time with you. So that probably.
That captain stuff, that means something?
That they certainly like to talk it like it means something. So I think that's a data point that you should consider.
One of my favorite parts of today was when Nick was asked about Zach Harrison, and Nick told a story about during recruitment, like Zach didn't say anything. He was just very quiet and wasn't outgoing at all. And Nick was like, we're not going to be able to do anything with this guy. Like, I don't know that he's actually worthy of being here. Like, what are we going to do with him if he is this just listless? And, because the impression you get there is like, well, he's not going to do what is needed. He's just some quiet guy who doesn't do anything. And then, so they sign him. And as soon as he's signed, Mickey said Zach Harrison is a completely different player, and Mick sat him down why? What changed?
What is wrong with you?
Right, and Harrison just said, "I hate recruiting. I hated it." And and he's the guy that we all know, the physical makeup that Zach Harrison has. And what did he say? Zach Harrison's ceiling, the ceiling on the basement isn't one of those 8-foot ceilings from the 70s. It's like a 12-foot ceiling now, and that's just the basement ceiling.
Yeah,
So he said when how would you compare his ceiling to Chase Young or Nick Bosa? And he's like, it's going to be really good. I mean, it's what do you want me to say?
That was one of those questions that you really wanted an answer to that you didn't get an answer to. But yeah, I mean, also here's one of those things that you didn't hear no when he was asked to compare that. So, that is 12-foot ceilings or not, the Bosa and the Chase Young are potentially within the realm of possible outcomes there. And that's pretty good.
Yeah. It'll have to suffice. The outgoing thing, it was also interesting because he then talked about Master Teague. And in comparison to J.K. Dobbins, because J.K. Dobbins a year ago, he just started becoming this leader. He was a quiet guy, but he was outgoing. Whereas Master Teague now has to become a leader like J.K. because right now Master Teague is in that same time frame. This is going into his 3rd year. But the problem with Teague, according to Marotti, is that he's not outgoing. And it's not that it's a problem, but he needs to become more. If he's going to emerge as a leader, he was quiet. He's quiet like J.K. was quiet last year. But J.K. was also, J.K. wasn't a leader last year, but he was outgoing.
Yeah.
So Master needs to become outgoing, and that's just pulling leadership out of guys and getting them out of their comfort zone. He said it's really hard, but I mean, you look around here. I mean, that's his job. That's what all of the coaches are trying to do from all of these guys, is to get them beyond what they are comfortable with.
Yeah, and I mean, he talked about the different types of leadership that they have too.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He said he talked about guys asking what kind of leader is he? Is he a vocal leader? An NFL team's coming in, is he a vocal leader? It's what the heck does that mean? That just means you're talking. That literally just means you're talking. That doesn't mean anything. You have to. What was it? You show it, you demonstrate it.
Here's what he said. He's being a leader is hard. Anybody can cheerlead. That doesn't mean you're a leader. You have to, as a leader, you have to be seen, felt, and heard. And one or two isn't enough to be a leader. And so that's what they're trying to get out of all of these guys. And right now, perhaps Master Teague is seen and, I guess felt by the linebackers. But if he's not like, also heard, or maybe if a guy is just heard, then it's like, well, all you do is talk.
Yeah.
Like at least Damon Arnett eventually backed it up with his play, and he was seen and felt along with being heard. But yeah, it was Mickey was not interested in the whole vocal leader aspect of anybody, because like you got coaches for that,
right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to.
He doesn't like them infringing upon his territory.
Yeah, you have to. Your impact has to go beyond the first 20 seconds of those like weekly game trailer hype video things where they're yelling in the locker room, and then they go out and and then they go out and play. Like you also have to be in the part where people are scoring touchdowns and tackling people and hitting people hard, and there's more than just being the guy who's up in front of the locker room giving the impassioned speech. And that sounded like that was not something. He said he sat down with J.K. Dobbins last year because J.K. Dobbins was not really doing all the pieces of that last summer. He was kind of doing the, being seen and being felt, but not really being heard at that point. And, that isn't a necessary part of that puzzle, because he turned into that kind of guy for that team, but he wasn't. Not everyone is a natural at all three of those things. And being able to kind of push yourself and develop yourself personally into those different areas, that's when you become someone that they, get to come back to those captain's breakfast every year.
Well, and Justin Fields has become that guy. And he wasn't that guy last year because he came in new, as Marotti said, he's just trying to be quiet and learn and not get in the way and not try to be, and we talked about it last year. Like, you can't take over on your first day. Now, you have to show what you can do, keep your head down, and just keep working. And now, after starting the entire season, he knows everything about Ohio State. Because, as like Marotti said, like last year, he was looking for the nutrition room. He was looking for this. He didn't know where he was going, and so now he knows Ohio State. Even with his online class schedule, he knows where he's going. But just he's more comfortable, and everybody saw like what kind of player he is, how hard he worked, how much he wanted that touchdown from the 2-yard line, and so he is now one of the leaders of this team, and now because of the proof that he has put down, he is more vocal, and he is seen, he is felt, he is heard, and I would expect I maybe one of the shows we should talk about like who's going to be captains this year.
Yeah,
I would think that, based on his performance last year and the fact that this is going to be his last year, you might want to vote him a captain now.
Yeah, I would say I would put Justin Fields on that list. I would put Chris Olave on that list pretty clearly as
Paris Johnson.
If Paris Johnson is a true freshman captain, that would really be something that I don't anticipate that Paris Johnson will be.
We'll see. I'm just throwing it out there.
Justin Fields and Chris Olave and some combination of those returning offensive linemen, I think, is a pretty good bet for the start of that. And Jeremy Ruckert, too. Jeremy Ruckert may be in there, too, because he was, that's another one of those things where, Marotti is kind of talking about just looking to give an example, and Jeremy Ruckert was the name he pulled up when he was talking about guys setting
goals. Why
is
that? Why?
Yeah, like why is he front of mind? Like he's someone who is, He was a lot like Fields. He came in with that 5-star hype, and has been able to kind of.
He had to change positions. He had to learn how to become a tight end.
Right.
And so, if there's one guy in this program who has seen the growth of Jeremy Ruckert, it's Mickey Marotti.
That's another thing that was an interesting thing that he talked about was when guys are changing positions. Like, who gets to sort of say that in that, because Marotti can look at these guys as they're being recruited, like he singled out Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah.
And, said he came on a recruiting trip and he weighed 195 pounds. Like, safeties at Ohio State don't weigh 195 pounds. Now he's a defensive end.
But he's the guy who could see, we can take him.
You can look at the frame, you can look at the makeup, you can look and go, okay, like this is a guy who we can do that with. Nick Petit-Frere is another guy, where he said, like, he's over 300 pounds now. Now, he came to Ohio State, I think if I remember, it was 260 something pounds or something like that, 270 pounds. Like
272.
You got to put weight on, and you can't just like put on the freshman 15. Like you can't just do that by going
Take
to
your
Wendy's
Buckeye
every
D.
day. Yeah.
Go to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Works for everybody.
Yeah, just say, give me 2 of everything, please. Chili cheese burritos are not how you get on the offensive line here. Like, you have to be able to look at that and recognize that, like, this guy has a frame that we can fill out, and this guy may not.
Right.
And then he said it's kind of a conversation between him and the coaches. Like, the coaches say, okay, hey, we want to maybe think about moving this guy from safety to linebacker or linebacker to defensive end. And, Mickey Marotti's got to look at them and go, okay, yeah, we think I can do it. Or he can tell them, hey, this guy's build, he's not going to stay linebacker size. Like, that was the conversation around Cade Stover. Like, Cade Stover's not going to stay linebacker size forever. You can probably, we can make it, but it's going to be a fight. Or you could just move him to defensive end, and Cade Stover's now defensive end.
I liked what he said. He's like, well, he came in and he was 6'4", 225, and you could just see his bones. It's like you knew, like, with these bones, they're going to carry more weight. So it's funny how, like, the physiological view that he has of everything, like, we'll just see, like, yeah, it's a pretty big kid. He's like, yeah, but look at that femur.
Yeah.
You see that ulna? Is that the shoulder? The arm? The hand? I don't know. No, Tom?
Elbow, maybe?
There you go. Look at that elbow. That's going to be a big kid. Speaking of big kids, DeJuan Jones.
Oh, man.
Nick was asked about him, and the quote here is, I love him. He's a great kid. He smiles all the time. And they said, even when you're trying to coach him and work him really hard, he just keeps smiling at you. And I would think, wouldn't that burn you up sometimes? like, really? Just smiling all the time?
He is someone. DeJuan Jones is one of those people that, like, every time you ask someone about him, they smile, they start laughing. Like, he is just the gentle giant, the absolutely beloved. Like,
he wants to go play for the basketball team to help the basketball team out now.
Yeah. He said that he's whatever he is, 6'8" and 340 pounds.
He didn't give a number on the weight though.
Yeah, I was trying to think about what he was listed last year. I think he's listed as 6'8", 350 or 340, something like that. He talked about the fact that his body fat's not that high.
Right.
Like, he's just a big dude. This is not the guy who is, like, way overweight and they had to cut a lot of weight. Like, there's just that's not it. He's just a big dude.
He said he doesn't need to weigh anymore.
Yeah.
They just need to work on the flexibility and continue to work on that. Because, like, apparently, like, where he is now, it could work as long as he can move.
Yeah.
And
if you watch him play basketball, like, you watch his basketball highlights, like, he moves his feet well.
Yeah.
Like, that's like 80% of you get good bend and you can move your feet. That's like 80% of being a good offensive tackle. And one of the things that Marotti said is DeJuan Jones loves basketball. And Marotti said that they'll talk to, like, managers and just go, like, look, just go rebound for him for like 2 hours. Go shoot jump shots for 2 hours. You want to, if that's what you want to do to kind of get in shape, stay in shape, like, go do that. Like, that's great. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever works for you.
It's amazing to me. Like, one of my arguments against paying players, not that they don't deserve something, but everything here is personalized for them, including something like that, like this workout. Have somebody go rebound for you. You know what it costs to have somebody go rebound for you? But then, personalized diets and personalized urine color checklist. Things like that. I mean, this is all very in tune, and just a guy like DeJuan Jones who, like, finding ways to make sure that he is able to stay where they need him, and they do that for all of the players, and it's just interesting the amount of attention that goes on in this building, aside from just our attention.
Yeah. No, I mean, there is, like, you think about the time that they're on the practice field, during spring ball, during summer camp, during fall bowl practices. It's like, wow, there's a lot that goes into being a football player. Like, okay, then they have the meetings where they're watching, then they're watching film on their own. Then they're going to work out. Then they're just coming in, just working out, and just, hey, Justin Fields is just here to throw balls with 5 different receivers on a random Tuesday afternoon. Like, there's and then that doesn't even get into the nutrition, into the personalized exercise and workout kind of programs.
Or then they come throw the ball at midnight.
It's however much you think about Ohio State football, I can assure you that players, coaches, staff, everyone in this building is more personally invested in it than you are. So, and that's one of the things where, you see you see a player tweet about being at Top Golf or something, and there's inevitably someone in their mentions going, go practice more. It's like literally, this is the first thing they've done other than football and go to class. And this is the first time they have done something fun outside of the WAC. You
get a reply like, oh, it must be nice to be able to go out and do that. It's like, honestly, I have been indoors at the WAC for 17 hours. I just got out for 2 hours to go do this. Yeah. And then I'm going to go back to the WAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whatever, it's like, are you really even dedicated if you leave the building sometimes?
The moral of the story is that people on Twitter are terrible, and you should never interact with them.
I think that does it, Tom. You got anything else from?
No,
I think we covered it pretty
scrolling
well.
through. I think we've kind of covered all of the topics from today. Jackson Smith and Jigba is good to go. He had an injury at an All-Star game. He's good to go though. All the freshmen are different. All the freshman receivers are different, but they have a great work ethic. I mean, he talked about Julian Fleming. I mean, Julian Fleming is another one of those guys who
he did.
You look at the sort of the height, the speed, the hands. He's one of those guys that pops in an All-Star game. So when you're someone who pops off the screen in an All-Star game, that's pretty good. And Brian Hartline had talked about him being someone who played in a single wing, a wing T offense in high school. So he really didn't get many chances to catch the ball. But he's someone to keep an eye on. Just, and not that he's going to be a 1,200-yard receiver this year, but maybe the high end there is maybe he's a Garrett Wilson type. Yeah. Like what Garrett Wilson did last year, maybe he does it this year. Maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba does it this year. We don't know yet who it's going to be, but it feels like you've got enough high-level talent in that wide receiver room that someone's going to be that guy this year.
Even if it's just doing what Garrett Wilson did. Garrett Wilson had the most receptions for a true freshman, since David Boston in '96.
Was he good?
He ended up being okay.
Okay.
Pretty decent player. Was screwed out of the Biletnikoff as a junior. But whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's no big deal.
Absolutely.
All right. I think that'll do it. Tom, we do probably need to eventually do a bonus show at some point, maybe next week.
Yes, we got
to get in under that month.
Yes, and we have some Patreon subscribers who are subscribing at the level where they're able to send us custom show requests. So we will start doing those as we start getting into the off season. And we'll be in contact with you if you are interested in subscribing to Patreon and giving us, you want to hear a whole show about the 1994 Ohio State offensive line. We can do that. That's on you. Whatever you want. You can subscribe at patreon.com/Buckeye Weekly, and we take requests there.
Do you want us to rewatch the '95 Michigan game? And you watch along? Because you will have to watch along.
Yeah. Any Michigan fans who are interested in becoming Patreon subscribers?
Imagine that jerks like that would be like, yeah, this week I'm requesting the 96 game. This week I'd like the 97 game. This week, how about the 99 game?
1993. What was your favorite Ohio State scoring drive?
Yeah, that's... we might want to rethink that, Tom.
So you should, Buckeye fans should be Patreon subscribers at the highest level. So therefore, we can push the Michigan shows off as long as possible.
Push it down. All right. Make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Ozone Radio Network with the Buckeye Sloopcast on Mondays and Fridays, Silver Bullets on Tuesdays, and look at us here on a Wednesday.
Look at us.
Who would have thought? Not me.
Not me. Not me.
All right. Thank you all for listening. And make sure to check out the content at theozone.net. For instance, the video today from our meeting with Mickey Marotti is up there. And check out that. We've got all kinds of off-season stuff starting. So be there, and we will appreciate you reading that. We'll talk to you later.
We could steal a car and leave tonight. Midnight, porch light. I had to see you 'cause I know things just haven't been right. This feeling's getting stronger. I can't take it any longer. Say you will, now say you will. Oh yeah. Say you will, now say you will. If you tell me that tomorrow's alright, we can steal a car and leave tonight. Well, I came in for a goodbye kiss, but I could never have imagined this. Say you will, now say you will. Oh yeah. Say you will, now say you will. Say you will, now say you will. If you tell me that tomorrow